biology.
Thank you very much, Katie. Looking at my biog there, you'll see at the end of it the crops we grow. Arable crops would be considered a heavy land Leicestershire farmer. We farm with our neighbour about 2,000 acres of arable land. And it's interesting, we probably think over the last few years or decades, we've probably had a lot of interest in chemistry, plant protection products, nutrition. And I think there's a lot of interest from farmers about how they embrace more biology. How do we get to that step? Because we still can be seen as being in two camps, and yet there's a lot of common ground there. So firstly, it's really been called integrated farm management. It's been popularised by Leaf in the past as well, but it's actually doing it now. And it actually takes a lot more than actually going out there and letting someone else do the farming for you. I think you've got to get out there, you've got to start digging the soil, you've got to start looking at green bridges, you've got to start looking at a lot of different things on your farm. So, and I think a lot of people are slightly not intimidated or scared, but they're making that step. How do I get into this step where I get into that middle ground where I can use some of that agricology, if you like, to produce my crops? So some of the things that we're doing, we've talked about wide rotations, which we've widened our rotation. We've talked about introducing grass. Alistair talked earlier on, you don't actually have to have your own stock. You can invite other people's stock in. You can have a flying flock with someone else doing it. We've got a neighbour doing ours. It's also a great entry for a youngster into farming as well. You know, they're keen, and also you provide them with the ground, and actually they'll probably get on and do it and really be very motivated as well. So we have 60 acres of permanent pasture and another 60 acres of grassland, which is actually it's in a red clover and ryegrass, but we might start to think about sandthorn. We might start to think about some of the herbal lays as well. So wide rotation, and basically these are the things of conservation agriculture as well. So it's a wide rotation, it's reduced tillage, and it's continuous crop cover as well. So trying to protect our soils, and we've already heard about how soils are going to be really important. There are a lot of farmers now looking at their soil and saying, things aren't quite working at the moment. How can I improve it? How can I look at my soil health? So the wider rotation has meant that we've got now we seem to have a lot less disease pressure. We're already beginning up our earthworm numbers. We're doing a lot of direct drilling, reduced cultivations. Of course, there are a lot of people who will be innovative and will look at all these areas to explore. There will be others who will stand back and wait for policy to take them there. And I think this is why we need to have a sensible dialogue with Michael Gove and the 25-year environment plan, that we make sure that if you want to take farmers on a journey, then give them some things to do. So, good use of ecological focus area to grow cover crops that can be grazed. I mean, it seems to me crazy that you can have a rule that says you can't grow a grazable mix, supposedly, but to destroy it after the 15th of Feb, you can graze it as one of the ways to get rid of it. So we need to make things much more embracing for farmers to be able to use some of those tools that bring in some of those. And I've also heard it called an organic fusion. So taking the best bits of organic farming and some of the best principles of more conventional farming and bringing them together and trying to find a policy that takes farmers forward. Now, there's one point I want to put here at the end, is there are some challenges. Cover crops especially. Now, can I just say, anybody grow cover crops here? Yeah? I think I would say the heavier your ground gets, the more challenging it gets. One thing about going to integrated farming as well is, don't go into it thinking you're going to solve your slug problems and your blackgrass problems. You've got to try and solve them first before you go into it, because a number of people go in and say, well, it didn't work. This sort of a groundswell is another movement. I did all that stuff, and after one season I gave up on it. And I said, what's the problem? Well, we've got blackgrass and slugs. I said, what did you have before? Blackgrass and slugs. You've got to be a bit more imaginative. So I think there are challenges on the cover crop front. I would say the lighter your land is, the more success you'll have with it. And I would try and steer away from too much radish in mine because of the slug issue. We already talked about disease issue. Once you introduce another black brassica, unless you've got a wide rotation, you end up with problems there. Okay, I think I'll leave it there.